Butch and Bob Show.
World famous Butch and Bob Show here on WIFO 105.5 FM in Jesup, Big Dog Country Radio. Morning, Bob.
Good morning.
All right. Well, our guest just arrived. Let's get started with the coach.
We got athletic director and head baseball coach Justin McDonald in. Again, spring sports are winding down. State tournaments get underway next week. Several Wayne County teams are in the state event, so let's keep looking for those brackets on that GHSA. They still don't have anything listed. I saw where they don't even have our tennis team listed as number one, but it looks like they know who they're playing and things like that. So you got any information on the other? I know soccer teams are going.
Yeah.
The tennis teams are going. I know our tennis team girls won the region championship, so they'll host. Any idea what day and who they play?
Yeah, our girls tennis, they'll host Tucker on Tuesday here. They're waiting to confirm it. That'll be a home match, first round. Our boys go to Marist on Monday at 2:00. So the boys tennis be on the road to Marist on Monday at 2:00, and the girls will be at home on Tuesday versus Tucker. That time to be announced. But our girls soccer is on the road next Tuesday to Marist at 5:00, and our boys are on the road to, they're still trying to, I guess, get that opponent identified. I know there's some still trying to get in touch with the coach. That will be solidified, but it should be Wednesday. There's should be Wednesday around 5:00. A start time, but that'll be on the road. Girls golf is headed Monday and Tuesday to their sectional tournament, which is in South Fulton. It's in Atlanta, South Atlanta, so it's at Wolf Creek Golf Course. That'll be a practice round Monday, and on Tuesday they'll play boys golf. Then the following Monday and Tuesday will be at Okefenokee for their sectional tournament there in Waycross. So and then our track team, boys and girls track team, they head to region competition at Warner Robins next Tuesday and Thursday. So, everything. We have a couple bass fishers that are qualified for the state tournament as well. So that's coming up here soon too. So there's a lot of things going on in the next 2 weeks, and it's real busy time. I was just looking through my text. Clarkston is the opponent that the boys soccer should possibly be playing. Clarkston, out of all those schools that we cross over with in the first round of playoffs, they're all DeKalb and Fulton County schools. So no travel's an issue in the first round of playoffs for anybody that's going on the road. So, again, a lot of things going on, and obviously baseball Wednesday will host. We're still trying to, that opponent won't be determined until Friday. It could be Southwest DeKalb or Northview. So one of the two of them will be coming down here next Wednesday.
Any idea what time that doubleheader getting away next next Wednesday?
Yeah, we traditionally try to do 4:30 for the first game, and then the second one at 7. But we'll negotiate it. Obviously, they have to agree on it. But we try to make it 4:30. That gives people a little more time to get off work and get there. And as we all know, that place when it's filled up, it's a factor. So you want to give people opportunity to get in there for the first pitch. So we'll get all that figured out here this weekend, and I'll get everything together on an email and get it to you so you can start pumping it up as well going into next week, because postseason's here for everybody.
Well, this week was really fun. Like I said, I've been doing this a long time. The crowds on Monday and Tuesday here at home and over in Waycross, the biggest crowds I've seen for a regular season ball game. Both teams ranked in the top 5. It was great competition. Both games, Wayne County fortunate to get out on top on both games to win this region championship, and got the third game today. Should be another good crowd on hand for that ball game at 6:00. But first of all, congratulations on your team winning this region championship. Again, it's a long grind. Eli said it best in the interview. People don't understand it is a long grind. The season started in February, but these kids, as soon as the Christmas break is over, they're back up. They're in January working out, working on their own. So, you're looking at January, February, March, April. Could go into May. So, you're talking about a 5-month grind for these kids. I mean, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, and that's just that's every day with everybody. So that's not putting in the summer and the fall workouts, the 4-on-1s, the workouts during school. Working out 5 days a week during school, and then I think it was about 3 to 4 days after school with 4-on-1s and shoulder care and arm care things that were going on. So, you have to do that stuff if you want to be at the top. And the people, there's some programs out there that don't take pride in that stuff, and they're the ones that are watching other people play or, trying to schedule games. And, for next year. And, I kind of put that schedule for next year to the side because I'm worried about this year. And I've already had people reaching out about schedule for next year. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about what we're doing right now. So, again, I'm proud of them. It's sometimes I guess here in this county, if you look at the number of region championships that's won in the baseball program, sometimes I think some people may get a little spoiled with it, but these things ain't easy to come by. I can tell you, this is probably, I thought the atmosphere at Cherokee Bluff last year was like something that to be like very kind of intimidating for our guys, or something that we had to try to keep composure. But that last inning the other night at Waycross, I put that up with anything I've ever been a part of our kids being able to take in the moment. And I think Kay Lynn on senior night, one of the advice he had for upcoming players is let the outside noise just be noise. And that was brought up before the game that day, and I think that's what our guys did. They let all the outside noise just be noise and played the game, and found a way to win. But I'm extremely proud of them. Obviously we're going into today like we got to win this one to be the 1 seed. We don't. I've told our guys, I think, the school record in wins is 29. If we're going to try to do anything today, we want to get one more win to try to set that school record and get 30 wins or whatever it is that may be there. But, again, I'm proud of them, and, they're I'm sure they're ready to go right now. So we just got to get through the school day and let that bell ring and get ready to rock and roll.
I got to ask you, their PA announcer was on there, and that's against the stuff like that's not a lot to be. I mean, there are rules in play, right?
Yeah, there's some stuff that I sit on a bench at our place. The kids make fun of me because I take 2 towels and put them down. I sit at my Diet Mountain Dew right there, and I sit my chart right by there, and I sit on the bench and I watch baseball. And Coach Roy and Coach Cameron handle pitchers. Coach Brock and Coach Henson handle outfield, infield. Coach Bryant handles the catchers, and I just sit there and watch baseball and make suggestions as they go. I don't understand some of the having to get out there and be seen, and then not necessarily from the coaching standpoint, but just all the outside stuff. High level baseball, most people are sitting back watching the game and letting the players play, and that's what I want to do. I want it to be about the players and letting them play, letting them showcase what they do. And I've said it from day one doing this as the head baseball coach, and some people may not understand this, but the games are the easy part. It's the 8 to 3, making sure they're in class, making sure they're showing up on time, making sure their nutrition, their lifting, their hydrating, all that stuff is that stuff you have to stay on a high school kid in today's world. Make sure they're locked in when they come in, and but when that national anthem's done and that first pitch is thrown, it's time for them to do what they do, and we just make suggestions and motivate and try to keep them going in the right direction.
We get the machine working today for the lines.
Yeah, it's back. Yeah.
Poor old Miguel, that thing.
Oh, yeah.
When that computer thing doesn't work, it was on the way. You have to go one direction, it was going the other direction.
Well, I looked up. I was at the home plate meeting, and I looked at my feet, and the left-handed batter's box was painted right across the outside corner of the plate. And I said, well, that ain't going to work. And then I looked down third base, and it was like 4 inches outside the base. And I didn't know what happened at that time. I knew something was going on because he was moving around, and it wasn't going as fluid as it has been. But, he's got it all fixed now. They did the trial. Well, we had a goal game yesterday, and, they did a good job of it worked very well and got it put down in the right direction. But, that kind of threw a wrinkle in it. And, in my mind as a coach, you think, all right, kids, they're accustomed to a routine. Here we are breaking up the routine. And, I made the suggestion, hey, we might need to let Rowan get ready 15 minutes before the game and let him wait 15 minutes and then pitch, because he pitched pretty dang good after that.
Right.
So.
Well, Monday night was senior night, and then the seniors really shined. Again, Rowan gave you a great outing, and Tate Altman came in and closed it out, but your seniors played well. Luke Carter made some great catches in left field, and the seniors came through with the bats as well. And Tuesday, you got some young players that really stepped up. Jeb got you the big home run. Cade got a big home run, but again, Tate came in and closed it out, but another great outing by Eli, who's now 8-0 on the campaign. So the pitching's really been the story, between Rowan and Eli and Isaiah and Cade Lynn and, the rest, Isaiah. Everybody you put on the mound seems to be giving you a good effort. So that's a good sign going into the state playoffs.
Yeah, we got it kind of worked out like we wanted it to. There was, we kind of threw all our bullets Tuesday to try to win that one. And, fortunately, you got Kate out of there, so Kate will be on the mound to start today, and then some guys in relief. But that's those guys have done exactly what we want them to do, and you look at the pitch counts, and most of those guys are in the 5th or 6th inning. They were below 80 pitches, and I've been watching the Braves here lately, and you look up and there'd be any major league team, it's like the 3rd inning and the pitch count's over 50, and you're thinking, obviously it's big league players, but if you can minimize your pitch count and keep it down, and obviously, especially in a 3-game set, and give kids rest and opportunities, because Tate was good enough to get them out, but Tate wasn't as good as he was Monday because he threw back-to-back days, whether it's 10 pitches or 20 pitches. But he's got. I want some of what he has in his bloodline. So. But it's fortunate that we have those guys that could come in and not just throw strikes and have great pitches, but have the competitive mindset that you got to have at this level. It don't. I really don't think them guys care who's in the other dugout. They think they can get anybody out, and that's 90% of it. And we believe in them, and there's guys that are going to get work, and if they don't get work in this game today, they're going to get work after the game in a bullpen and get themselves ready to go next week. So again, it's you got to have pitching, and you got to play defense, and you got to get the 2-out hits, and that's something that we've done here in these 2 games.
Tate Altman was amazing after the ball game, because like I said, the atmosphere, there was a lot of stuff being yelled and screamed and hollered, and I said, I hope he's not hearing half this stuff, and he said that he doesn't hear anything. He said he's his own little mindset and doesn't hear anything, so I don't know how he does that, because there was a wild atmosphere over there.
Well, I had called him up, I don't know what inning it was, and I when some things have gotten kind of out of hand, I kind of somewhat, you feel you glad you won, but then you feel like we kind of went out of what we teach and what we believe or the culture of our program is, and there's only so many times you can get hit in the face before you let your kids just keep getting hit in the face, and then you just turn them loose and let them play. And I remember the head coach at Arkansas talking about that at the Division I level. There's some things you try to sit back and tell your kids not to do, but then when the other opponent's doing it, and not necessarily anything bad, we showed emotion too. So it's I love emotion in games, but you got to do it the right way. But I can remember asking them in the middle of the game, have they ever seen For the Love of the Game when it's Clear the Mechanism? And I said, and a lot of them have seen it, and I don't know if that worked or what it was, but, they cleared the mechanism and made outside noise just noise and found a way to win. So, it was very, it reminded me of like I don't know, quarterfinal, Final Four, some of those games we've been a part of here since I've been here, and you couldn't communicate with people in the field because the crowd was so loud. And, I love it. I want it to be just like that today. I don't want people to think just because we're the 1 seed now that we don't need to show up today and be a factor. I want it filled up, and, people up north know that word travels about how hard it is to play in this place, and, that's a tribute to the community and the support from the students at the high school and the administration to make sure people get in there and fill it up and be a factor. And, we want to go ahead and set the tone and obviously put the whole state on notice that this place is tough to play, and we'll be ready.
Again, the JV team had a game yesterday. How they do? They do well.
They lost the Toombs last week during spring break on Wednesday, and it wasn't a good showing for them. And they come out, and I think I know the run rule there. I think it was 12-0 in 5, and I think they had 13, 14 hits. So they did exactly what they was supposed to do. And I talked to those guys yesterday. Those guys, we kind of get into the gold and the black, and I want people to understand that there's 39, 40 kids in that locker room, and just because they was only 20 to 21 in Waycross, all 40 of them won a region championship, and that's what I want them to understand. They all play a part in it, whether they were there or not there, because they're in that locker room. They're bringing something to the table for our program. But they also, if you look at our roster at the high school now, this is 1 year where it really, in a program like ours, it should be where all your juniors and seniors are the ones playing. And there's no sophomores really that have been major contributors at this. Now, that could obviously change here in the next few weeks or few days, or heck, it could change today if something happened. But, there's not been a lot of sophomores that have been in that mix. Well, last year you look back and a lot of these juniors were having to play a sophomore. So, it's just one of those years that you sit there on that gold team, and that's a really, really good team. If you took that team right there and put them in a varsity high school schedule, they'll win a lot of games just because there's a lot of talent, and that's what we want. That makes our job difficult to make a lineup. It makes our job difficult to get the right mix in the clubhouse. But again, that's just again goes back to the talent pool here in this county, and we use the slogan, "You have to work while you wait," and that's a message to them yesterday. If you feel like you need to be dressing or you should be dressing, then put your head down and work, or ask yourself, what did you do from day one? And if you've been doing the right things, you'll get that opportunity at some point. But you got to work, and those guys did a great job. I think they led a few games. They probably, if you asked every one of them, they'll say they should have been undefeated. They shouldn't have lost the game. But that's some of that things happened, and they did a great job. I think that's probably one of the better Gold or JV teams we've had here as far as talent-wise, and just able to hit the ball, pitch, play defense. And there's a big freshman class coming in next year. I think there's like 9 or 10 of them coming in from 8th grade next year. So, and we're losing 9 or 10, so it kind of filters itself out. But again, those guys did a great job. Coach Cameron, Coach Bryant, Coach Brown, Coach Robertson, they did a great job with them day in and day out. Of obviously, we want to win games, but developing them and getting them better and getting them ready to play at the varsity level.
And today you're going to recognize the 2 middle school teams.
Well, we were going to do that, and they have their middle school banquet tonight. I was trying to work that out where they could come before, and I think it's going to be too much moving around. But that was the plan for them to be recognized, because they need to be recognized, because again they dominated their schedules, and they went to some tournaments and dominated those as well, and that's what it should be. And I don't. We can start talking about that conference not letting us play and all, and you talk about the Appling appears to where we're going to turn around and play them in JV baseball next year. What's the difference? So it's really no difference than that. But we can self-proclaim ourselves conference champions, I guess. I don't know. It's nobody really gave them a run or gave them a fit as far as competitive, but we're going to try to do something for them during the playoffs and make sure they're recognized for what they did, the coaching staffs and the players for the performances they did, and I'll just say a pure domination of what they did throughout their season. And that's another thing that it's when it's important from the top, and that's me. I've always taken pride in what goes on in the middle school and the rec department, and making sure that stuff filters and then it's lined with our program. And some people think, well, there's great talent here, but it runs itself now. It's kind of we just kind of get it going, and now we sit back and just have kids camps and watch these kids come through. And I've been here long enough where there's kids that come to our camp are now getting married and having families, and it's getting to the point now where some of those players are going to have kids they're having kids coming to the camps, and then they'll have kids that are playing for us in high school. So, and that's what it makes full circle, and that's what we want to be here, because I've said it Tuesday night, I love this place, and sometimes I ask myself why I do it, and Tuesday night's one of the big reasons to be in those kind of moments and watch kids get what they work for and get rewarded for the work they put in.
Can you just join us in the studios with us, athletics director Justin McDonald, head baseball coach? The athletics department's got a big golf tournament coming up on May 17th. I know you want to tell people about that. Yeah,
we do. It's an annual fundraiser that's done. We have the golf tournament on May the 17th. That's actually the Saturday after we're having a spring football scrimmage. We'll get that information too. We're going to scrimmage Crisp County on that Friday. I think that's May the 16th, and then the golf tournament is the following Saturday morning. But if I know there's a sign-up sheet out at the Pine Forest for you to sign up as far as teams, and then whole sponsors. If you were a sponsor last year, there'll be somebody from a program that will probably, or if they have not already, have reached out or will reach out to you about sponsoring those whole sponsors are $100. The team entries are $400, so $100 per person on a 4-team scramble and a 4-man scramble. And then if you got any questions, you can email me at jmcdonald@wayne.k12.ga.us, or you can get in contact with me, and we'll get the right information to you as far as if you want to do a whole sponsor or something. We got to have a deadline. We'll set a deadline on those so we can make sure we have signs made for those whole sponsors. But I do want people, to understand that all the revenue in our athletic department is through ticket sales and fundraising. So, that's something that I think some people don't quite understand, that if obviously you have to win and you have to put a good product on the field that people want to come see, but you gotta put people in the seats, and people buy tickets, and you got to do fundraising. Whether it's we do the physicals here during the school year, and the golf term are kind of the two big ones that we do as a entire athletic department. But again, each individual program does a good job of fundraising to make sure they get what they need to compete and play at a high level, because all this money goes back to these kids and making sure they have our job is to ask ourselves the question, when kids get out of here, do we give them the best 4 years of athletics? And to be honest, I don't think we're quite there yet of giving them exactly what they need and what they deserve as far as being an athlete in this county. And that's my job, to continue to make it better each day, and we'll get to that point. But again, if you want to be a part of this golf tournament, it's May the 17th. I think the start's 8:00, and there'll be lunch served after. And it's always been a good turnout. It kind of I want people to support athletics in this county, and I don't think you have to go promote athletics in rural South Georgia in one county, one school. And that's why I love it here, because athletics are important, and it's something that kind of keeps this community together and brings them together, and to support kids. And again, it's about these kids, and obviously getting them the opportunity to play and win, and then opportunities to go further their career if they want to.
Getting back to the baseball, like I said, the state bracket should be out over the weekend.
That's correct.
If you go on that website, GHSA.net, they have playoff brackets. You can get the playoff brackets. Like I said, I've been checking every day. They still don't have the tennis and soccer set yet, and baseball's not set. But from what I understand, with us being the number one seed, we're definitely guaranteed 2 home matchups the first 2 rounds, and then after that, they'll do that coin flip. So
the old universal coin flip.
Somebody asked me the other day, is that coin flip real, or did they just fake that? I said supposedly you get to see it online, right?
Yeah, well, they video it and post it, but I can question how many times did they do it before they posted it, I guess. But
right.
I don't know. I used to like the old where you flipped, like after a game, or I'm talking about, I can remember in 17 when we flipped with Carrollton, and we flipped actually. I think it was outside of we had beat Buford that day, and we flipped the coin right outside the sidewalk at Alex's that day, and we won it. And I think that time, one of the coaches he was carrying a quarter in his shoe, and every time we flipped, he would take his shoe off, and whatever was on, that's what we called, even if it was game 3s, because I think we had game 3s in 2 of those series, and we won it every time. But I don't. Hopefully, we've been in the quarterfinals a lot, and I know that's something that you hear people say, well, can Coach McDonald and the Yellow Jackets get past the quarterfinals? And, I've heard it enough. I can promise you that we're trying to get past the quarterfinals. I don't know how many years in a row it's been, but, we've only had one of those here, and that was, I think, in St. Pius when you had Dennison, Thomas, Townsend, Brewer, and that senior class come through, and, they come in and put it to us pretty good. But, again, if we can be fortunate to obviously we got to worry about today. I'm trying to get ahead of myself, and that's not who I am. But, obviously that's a universal coin flip for, they do it each round. When it gets to the 3rd round, it's either top or bottom. So.
Right. Well, the one thing they did change, like I said, I tell people all the time I call and write letters, but, in the old days, what drove me crazy, you're hosting the playoffs, and they used to, like I said, we'd be the home team in one game, and they'd be the home team in the second game. But then they would flip to determine who the home team would be in the 3rd game. And I'd be going, what are we doing? We're the home team in every game. But they at least changed that, whereas if it does go to game 3, we are the home team. Yeah. So I still don't understand why they let the visiting team be a home team in our ballpark. That's just crazy.
I know from the coaches talking, everybody wish it was just you 3. If you're hosting, you're the home team all 3 times.
Right. I mean,
I'm talking about you.
That's what you play for. That's why we're the number 1 seed.
Yeah,
that's what drives me crazy.
Yeah, and then that I can understand. Even if it's a coin toss and you're hosting the site, then you can flip it back and forth or whatever you got to do. But I don't know. It don't make sense to me. But obviously you've worked so hard to get to the point where you are hosting. You should be rewarded to be able to. Because I'll say this. It's like Tuesday when it's a whole lot. It's a lot. I wouldn't say pressure, because everybody want. If you don't get pressure, that means what you're doing don't mean anything. So you want to have that pressure, but when you're up 5-3 and you think, well, if they score 3, we don't get another chance. But if you're up 5-3 and you're the home team and you say, well, if they do, we still got another chance at the end to come back. But, there is something to it when the game's close, and especially with the atmosphere that you have to be the home team. And, again, that's one Tuesday that would be with me for a long time. I know I watched the video that they took after, kind of the kids going to the fans there and appreciate the fans for being there, and to watch my son run around and act crazy and yelling, and that was I can see that on the video, something that you didn't get to take in, but that's something I'll remember for a long time, and hopefully we can replicate that going into the playoffs and have some more of those moments, because that's what postseason about is giving that crowd that shows up something to be proud of, and there's memory after memory after memory that's come through with great players that come through here that had big time moments in playoffs, and these kids are built different, and they're built for this kind of moments and these kind of expectations and pressure packed situations, so we're looking forward to it.
Again, we'll have that bracket for you Monday morning. We'll look at it, but for those listening, Quad A baseball, there's a lot of quality baseball teams in Quad A. I mean, 32 teams will enter, but looking at the ranks, like I've said all week on sports, both us and we're in the top 5, but you got teams like Blessed Trinity and North Oconee and Marist and St. Pius and Stars Mill. All those teams have a shot. So Ola. So, I mean, there's a lot of good quality baseball teams in Quad A baseball. So it'll be fun to have it at least the first 2 rounds at home, and then hopefully the coin flip goes our way and we'll wait and see, but possibly could play everything at home until you get to the. Have they decided where the Quad A championship's going to be? They're still deciding between Rome and Statesboro. Is that what they're doing?
Yeah, I can't quite remember. I think it's somewhere in like after the first round. They kind of put it somewhere, but
they kind of wait and see who's involved.
Yeah,
try to see what the location is
geographically.
Right, that's what I understand. Right.
Again, that's another thing. I think majority of the high school coaches rather play at your place.
Right.
But again, that's. That's already set, so we don't worry about that. But just tell us where to go play if we have the opportunity to get there. But, Coach Royal does a little spreadsheet for us when we get in the postseason with records and kind of brackets and strength of sketch, things like that. And, looking at it yesterday, I think there's 10 to 12 teams in 4A that have 20-plus wins. So, 4A's packed. I'll tell you, when you start looking at the Blessed Trinity, the Marist, as you said, St. Pius and Cartersville and Ola, Alatoona, Stars Mill defending champion. Cale, I think Cale is going to be in our bracket. They played Loganville in the semifinals last year. So there's a lot of good teams in 4A, and it's tough. So whatever we get out of this, we're going to have to earn and play well. And I've heard several times that you got to have some things go your way and to make that happen. And the one thing I always think about was a ground ball at Locust Grove. Cooper Martin hit back to the pitcher, and the pitcher dropped it, but he's running full speed out of the box and beats it out, and the rest is history. So you got to have things go your way, but you still got to play the game the right way and play full speed, and he did that. So that's a DTW moment of something that he deserved to happen because he was full speed. So we got to continue to preach that. So if something does need to go our way, but I believe you make your luck and you put yourself in a situation to be successful. So we just have to continue to do that and take it one game at a time. Get through today, get rested up, and get ready to go Wednesday.
Okay, Coach. Again, final games today at 6 o'clock. Our pregame at 5:50, and then we'll get ready for the state playoffs starting on Wednesday. And as soon as we find out who the opponent is in time, we'll have all that on Monday Sportscast. But appreciate you coming in, and congrats again to the tennis teams that are in state, the soccer teams, some track players will be going to state, and golf. So a nice spring sports season for Wayne County High School.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in the next weekend or week and 2 weeks, and I will try to get that. If you want to check we have a Facebook page with Wayne County High School, and they post a weekly schedule. Miss Hodges in the Miss Robin in the media center, she posts a schedule on that website, and that you can click on and be able to see the weekly schedule every week of what's going on. And we'll get that stuff out next week, and I'll get it to you so you can start pumping it up for the postseason for soccer, tennis, track, and bass fishing, baseball. Everything's going on right now that really means something where your season continues or you get the opportunity to move on. So but again, I appreciate what you all do for athletics and being able to broadcast these games. And I know people tune in. I don't know. Willie Wilson Jr. I don't know if you remember that name. He drove 4 hours the other day from Atlanta to watch that game.
I saw him.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's, former player for Coach Odom, and Coach Odom's come by with him before, and he said he'll be back Wednesday, so he's retired, and that means something to me. The people that put on that jersey, that we're still doing something to make them proud and make them want to come back, whether it was in the 70s, 80s, 90s, or recently since I've been here, to want to come back and be a part of it. So again, appreciate you all for giving people the opportunity that are not here to listen to it, and then obviously we'll give them something to be proud of when they come through the gate. So, again, thank y'all.
All right. Thank you, Coach. All right. And the world-famous Butch and Bob Show here on WIFO, brought to you by Heron Aldridge Insurance, by Murphy Builder Supply, the Service Department of G&S Auto Sales, and by First Southern Bank.